This episode is proudly supported by Pepe Sayer Australian Cultured Butter, batch churned from single origin cream.
We've got a culturing process, a fermenting process, an aging process. So the butter will taste very different than, I guess, the average supermarket butter. I like to say we make butter makers butter. Like, this is the sort of butter makers would like to eat, simply because of the slow process in which we ferment and age and get the flavour into it. You know, the natural fermentation that gets all the flavours into the cream, and then once you churn it, you end up with this really rich, flavoursome butter that evolves and changes because it's a live culture that's in the butter as well.
For more information, go to pepesayer.com.au.
Yeah, I really like what I do here in this Safran restaurant because it's my food. I put on a dish that what I really like to, what I enjoy and what I like to eat, and yeah, it's my flavors.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. In Australia, Turkish cuisine, for the most part, has been lumped in as simple Middle Eastern eating experiences. But there are a few amazing operators out there that have opened our eyes to the bounty, the depth and the beauty of Turkish cuisine, and few do it better than today's guest. Suleyman Kirbancioglu is the chef and co-owner of Safran restaurant at Edalong Beach. Sulo, how are you?
Good, thank you, Huck. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to get you on the show. You're doing amazing things there at Edalong Beach. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing there.
Thank you very much. I own a Turkish restaurant called Safran at Edalong Beach, and I've been running this place. It's actually we're about to celebrate our 10th year birthday. It's been a while. I'm mainly focused on doing contemporary Turkish. Other than doing all about kebabs and fillets, we bring some kebabs, but we try to modernize a bit more on our dishes.
What's the area like at the moment? You know, there's been a turbulent couple of years, but how are things at Edalong Beach?
During the COVID times, it was, of course, the same as everyone, it was pretty quiet. But we did quite well during the COVID time. Our locals are very supportive. But since the COVID is over, it's been pretty good. We had a good summer. People are back. But at the moment, when winter comes, obviously tourists, we don't get as much tourists, but we got decent locals. We're supported by mainly locals, so which is great. We don't really rely on tourists too much, and so that's which is great for the Central Coast business owners.
Turkish cuisine in Australia, there's been some really amazing restaurants that have sort of opened people's eyes, and you're one of them. But was there challenges sort of getting started up and changing people's perceptions of Turkish cuisine?
Yeah, that's the thing we're trying here is we're trying to tell people Turkish how wide is Turkish cuisine is, and we're trying to showcase like how to say how sorry, one second. We're trying to tell how wide our cuisine is from Balkans to the Middle East, and we're trying to showcase that on our menu, and people are quite happy with that. And sometimes we got some confused people might think it's not traditional Turkish, or they might think it's Turkish cuisine is very spicy, full on flavors. But in reality, really Turkish cuisine is it's quite simple. The flavors, like we like, if it's a lamb dish, for example, we really like to taste the lamb, or rather than hiding behind the spices and herbs and all that, or eggplant. You know what I mean? If it's an eggplant dish, it has to be like eggplant rather than spiced up. That's sometimes people confused by that. But most of the time, people are quite happy what we're serving.
Well, I want to explore sort of what you are cooking there in detail a little bit later on, but take us back to Turkey. Whereabouts did you grow up there, and what sort of role did food play for you growing up?
I was born in a very small village in the Black Sea region, West Black Sea, the town called Mengen, which is actually famous with the chefs in Turkey. Anywhere you go, if you tell them where you're from, and the first question they would ask you, are you a chef? So, so it's the town I come from. But when I was growing up, so my parents, so they grow their all own vegetables, fruit, even wheat. We had cows, geese, turkey, everything. So we used to grow our own pretty much everything, really. It's pretty self-sufficient in the countryside. But we were also a big family when I was a kid. So from lots of green beans, any sort of vegetables like tomatoes and cucumber, even the nuts. We used to have our own hazelnuts and walnuts raised, and even the fruits. We used to like dehydrate pears and cherries and all that. So, but now whoever grows up so left the village, so it's not happening as much. But when I was growing, we used to grow everything pretty much.
Are there any feasts or dishes that you remember from growing up that you can tell us about?
Mum used to make a lot of her böreğs used to be the best. The dish called erişte pasta with some dehydrated labnetjes, we call it case cheese, which we put on the menu sometimes. So that was always great. Lots of vegetable dishes, really. Lots of stews. Mum used to make her own soup mix. That was always great. I don't know what else. There's a lot, but I just can't remember everything.
The cuisine of Turkey is so different depending on where you are, and it's had so many influences. Tell us a little bit about the food of Turkey and maybe of the region that you're from as well.
Turkish, we got influences from Middle East, from North Africa, from Balkans, but our base is Persian, meat base, but later on, with the Ottoman Empire, it got mixed up a bit. We got bits from everywhere. Where I'm coming from, Black Sea region, it's we don't use a lot of spices. On eastern side, it's a little bit more spicy. Then again, it's only a few things like cumin, or a little bit of Aleppo pepper. They call it Maraş chili in Turkey. Little bit of oregano or mint, dried. That sort of spices they use. But on as you go on the western side, it's a bit more mild flavors. A lot of olive oil cooking. As you go outside the western side, olive oil cooking. There's mainly you stew the vegetable in olive oil. And cooks its own juice, like beans or artichokes or even spinach or any sort of vegetables. And you have that its own flavor, goes to the own juice. From the Balkan side, then again we got more varieties. Sometimes our cuisine looks close to the Greek cuisine. It's a little bit different, but it's close as well. So it's big variety. It's quite wide. Like we got like from Moroccan cuisine, we got we start using, especially Ottoman cuisine, I say, palace kitchen. They like using a lot of nuts and fruits in their savory cookings. So that got put into our cuisine as well. So it's quite wide.
When did you first start to sort of think as a career as a chef, and what lured you to it?
As I said, where I come from is quite famous with the chefs, and we're surrounded with a lot of chefs. And it was a school in the town. It was also quite famous. So I studied there. I studied there for 7 years. And then so I moved to Istanbul, to the big city. And one of my apprenticeship, I got into Four Seasons Hotel, which was nominated the best hotel in 2000 in Europe, and had a great chef. Our head chef was Italian, and actually since then I really wanted to be a chef when I started working at Four Seasons, and when I saw that the dishes they were making and the environment we had it in the kitchen, it was amazing, and that really got me into cooking. I just wanted to get better and better.
What were the really important sort of venues and people that you worked with as you sort of built your career?
Yeah, I would say in the hotels were the best for me. I work at Four Seasons and the Ritz, and the chefs we had in there, they were great chefs I worked with, and it was quite a few international chefs as well. One of the chefs I worked with, he was a pastry chef. I did work a little bit in the pastry, but he's from Belgium, Philippe Thibos, which he lives in Melbourne now. He's a great chocolatier. So, yes, I did work with some great chefs back then, and that got me, they gave me the influence that to become a chef, and one of them has actually have a 3 Michelin star today. One of the chefs I work, so it's great. I work with some great chefs, so yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the sort of hotel cookery in Istanbul, where you spent a lot of your time. How different is it to sort of the food that you see, that you grew up with and see in Turkey as well?
When I started over 20 years ago, the cuisine in Turkey started changing. It became more westernized. With the new chefs coming in, especially the foreign chefs coming in to the country with the hotels. So the hotels used to race each other who's going to be the best, in the restaurants and stuff. Not at the moment. There's still a few hotels are trying like that, but it seems to be moving to the restaurants more than the hotels at the moment. The restaurants, especially chef-owned restaurants, seems to be doing better at the moment. But back then, hotels was hotels showcase having one of the fine dining restaurant. So it was everyone like pushing hardest to become a best in the town, you know.
What did you take from your time in those restaurants?
I learned a lot from these restaurants. How to be creative, to use seasonal produces. We learn from them how to budget things and how to run the kitchens. So it was, I did learn a lot from these places I worked before.
What led to the move to Australia?
That was by luck, really. A friend of mine was supposed to come. He found a job in the city, and then last minute he told me that if I'd be interested, if there's a job like that. So it just come across, and then we had a chat with my first boss in Australia. So it just happened, really. Then I was like, why not? It's a big sea change, but yeah, it was great.
What did you think of Australia and the food scene when you arrived?
First, of course, it takes a few months to get used to really what's around you and what we're doing and all that. First of all, when I came, the place I was in, it wasn't really doing what I was used to in Istanbul. But after a while, then you obviously get into and get used to the system and what they expect from you and what we want to give to them. And then after a year or so, then the food in Australia is actually great because you can find any cuisine in the world. It exists in Australia, and you can actually. It's not like in like in Turkey, for example. It's very limited to get like a Japanese in any sort of town, But here it's great in that way in this country. So you get to taste any cuisine anywhere, and it's actually eye opener.
When did you first start to sort of think about opening your own venue?
Me and my wife, when we met in a restaurant, and after a while, we thought it would be a great idea for us to run our own business, and we start dreaming about it. And a few years later, we decided to open our own cafe, and we thought, it would be great for us to run our own business, and then we can do anything we like. We can serve people what really we want to serve, and we opened a cafe, and it was about 15 years, 15 years ago, just before our son born. And then when we had our cafe, I always wanted to have a restaurant, and I wanted to have a Turkish restaurant. And from the cafe, then we moved to doing the restaurant. So I'm very happy that maybe we're doing the restaurant because it reflects me, that restaurant, rather than the cafe.
Why did you choose Long Beach, and tell us about the process of finding the site for Safran?
At Long Beach, my wife is from Central Coast. She was born in Nuwaina, and just next to Geelong. Then when we got married, we went for a long holiday. When we came back, and we stayed at Nan's place. And then we just thought we'd stay here for a little bit. But once you stay here for a few months, we were only meant to be a few months here. Then you just, it's hard to go back to city, really. Then, we decided to stay on the coast and have our own place. Because I used to commute to Sydney every day. And then after a while, I decided to stay up here rather than moving back to Sydney and have our own place. So yeah, that's how we stayed on the coast.
You're really sort of standing out in the pack with your contemporary sort of play on Turkish cuisine. What were the challenges in the first couple of years as you sort of built Safran?
There's no the first thing was there was no Turkish restaurant on the Central Coast. There's one or two kebab shops, and introducing a new thing on the coast, especially where we are. That was challenging to because it's something new, and we're trying to introduce. And we're also trying to do contemporary rather than kebabs and pides that most people know. So that was challenging. First year or so, it took about a year or so, and we won an award from. We've won a new restaurant academy association as the best new restaurant in the region. And then that actually kept us going and put our name out there a bit more, and yes, and then we just grew from there really. And then as the time goes, people start to know us, and people start to know what we're doing, and so it's been 10 years, so we're still here, so it's just great.
You mentioned when you were in Turkey the focus on quality produce in the venues that you worked in. What's it been like in Australia for you, and the produce available to you to do what you do in Australia? Is it different, and has there been challenges?
Not really. In Australia, the produces are great. You can find pretty much everything. There may be some things that are a little bit different. For example, the artichokes, like in Australia, you don't grow the artichokes as big as in Turkey. Maybe they're different. They're a bit smaller than what we do, because we can do like dolma, like stuff them, wrap them in wine leaves, and you can make a beautiful dolma vegetable with the artichokes in Turkey. And there are little things like that, you know. The leek is a little bit different. Our leek seems to be longer. It seems to be shorter. But a few things like that. But other than this, really, there's nothing. We can get our own hands. Even some of the products are better. They're great. More variety. It's more variety because being a multicultural country here, everyone brought their own culture a little bit, and then you can access to them quite easily, so which is great.
We mentioned sort of near the top of the show about, you know, the last couple of years have been challenging for everyone on the planet, and particularly those in hospitality as well. Sort of in a regional location where you are and doing something sort of contemporary and quite different as you are, did it have its challenges through that period? Did you have to change what you did?
Yes, we changed pretty much everything on the COVID times. What we were doing really, because we could only do takeaway kind of food or packaged food, so it had this to it, more of a home style cooking. So that was the it worked for us on a certain level. It kept us going at least. People were very supportive, but yeah, we have to change pretty much whole menu, whole structure of the food we were doing. Yeah, but it helped us keep going.
How did you feel during that time?
At the beginning, we were afraid, same as everyone. We weren't sure what's going to happen, what we were going to do, how we're going to run things. And yeah, as the time goes, so we got molded into it, you know. So we had to come up with some ideas and how we're going to keep our staff, how we're going to create some business. So after a while, we get through to it. But yeah, as I said at the beginning, we weren't really sure how to do things and what to do. But it was fine. No, we just get through, you know.
Well, speaking of doing things differently, you do comedy all stars as well. Tell us a little bit about that and how that works with the restaurant and what you've done.
Comedy, we started doing maybe 6 months ago. So it's we working with one of our colleagues, a place called one of the bar Toto. They have a space, and they provide the space. We provide the food, and so it's going quite well. We're doing it once a month or once every 2 months. It creates what do you say? More than a business, it's something to talk about, something to looking forward for the people in the area. So it's been great so far. We have another one tonight. We're getting Stephen Amos coming tonight, and it's going quite well. So it's pretty good.
Tell us a little bit about your food and what you're doing there. Is there a couple of dishes that you can talk us through that sort of exemplifies your contemporary play on Turkish?
Yeah. Okay. Well, we on our menu at the moment, we have some little petit mezes. One of the things called like pishi. Like I used to love that when I was a kid. It's just like yeast bread, it's just fried. But we top this one up with, it's very traditional, but we top this one up with scallop and tarama and salmon roe. So that's with the traditional, with the contemporary combined together. Or like we got börek. Börek is very traditional Turkish, like you can find it in any corner. But I laid it's just a laid pastry with some goat. Goat means cook some tomatoes and pine nuts and marjoram. Actually, that feeling comes from kibe. We call it içli köfte. That's the feeling I use to lay the börek. And we top it up with sucuk, which is Turkish sausage. We kind of make it, we cook it with some onion and garlic and with some cream, and we puree it up and use the siphon to form it up to top up the börek. So it's still traditional, but we're adding some contemporary cooking styles to it. With some cauliflower puree next to it, so to finish all dish together. Or we have another dessert is pistachio sarma. It's like a pistachio baklava, but we make our own mastic ice cream, and with some meringue chards. So we dehydrate them. That's sort of these are some of the examples. Like for example, we have a mantı, very traditional Turkish dish. Mantı normally used with some mince in it, served with yogurt, but we're filling it with crab, bulusu crab, serving with you still have mint and sumac and a little bit of chili, like flavors that mantı is supposed to have. And then we're topping up with some kefir on top. So I still have that sourness from the yogurt. We're just combining, mixing things like that. But I still have the original flavor and taste on the dishes. So we're trying to keep that way.
Well, as you mentioned at the top of the show, it's almost a decade. You're about to celebrate that with the restaurant. How does it feel having had your own business so successful like that for a decade?
Time, it's 10 years. We go like, sometimes we talk about it, wow, it's been 10 years. So it's been great. It feels great. And when we look back and we're still growing, we're still getting, like, trying to get better every year it goes through. And so when we look back, our menu, our food, or the restaurant, even the interior designs, we just keep building ourselves and try to get better every time. I think that's the thing keeps going us. So we need to get better with our service, with our food, with our menu. So that keeps us going. I guess that's one of the keys that we've been going last 10 years. And of course, we try to serve the best as we can with our food. And so we got the good support from our locals. It keeps us going. So hopefully we'll keep going many more years.
Well, you've built an amazing restaurant there. What do you love about what you do?
Yeah, I really like what I do here in this Safran restaurant because it's my food. It's I put on a dish that what I really like to, what I enjoy and what I like to eat and what I'm used to, the flavors, it's more of it's my flavors, that's what I really like about this place, about this restaurant.
Well, Sulo, it's an honour to have you on Deep in the Weeds today to hear a part of your story. Please keep in touch and we'll catch up again soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.